Hey, good people, this is your NI Down back with another YouTube reflection. And this is a personal journal for contemplative people looking to think, grow, and have impact in the world. So, hey, the introverted eight. The introverted eight. Eight as in the Enneagram type eight. Most people see that eight as more aggressive, extra in the outer world, and it can attribute an extroverted characteristic. But I've been thinking about if there's a delineation between how extroverted eights show up and introverted eights. I'm an INTJ eight, and so I've not only looked at. Let me say it differently. I'm an INTJ eight, and I've been mostly curious about how INTJ-ness intersects with eightness. But over the past week, I've become curious about just paring that down and just looking at introversion and extroversion as it relates to type 8. So earlier this week, today is a Saturday I'm recording, but earlier this week, I kind of put that question out in the YouTube world, and this guy came up. It was hard to find any content about introverted 8s. I didn't really spend a lot of time studying, digging, but from my cursory overview, I found this guy with some content of about 17 minutes. And I started it earlier this week and I finished it this morning. So I'm just here to respond to him. You know, I'm always excited when I run across another black content creator. I don't want to say he's African American. I don't know. Or really, because earlier today I read an article about just the diversity of blackness in America that extends beyond culture, but looks at nationality and ethnicity. Anyway, so there's that. But he's a black content creator. I know that. He might be black Hispanic. I don't know, but he's black. And so that was really exciting. And the fact that he was talking about typology. And I think, and I've never seen the guy before, but based on that 17-minute piece, he referenced cognitive functions. And I believe he referenced MBTI. So I'm gonna kind of look for more content just to see what this dude is about. So anyway, so I just wanted to come in and I took some notes on his that 17-minute YouTube video, and I'm just here to respond to some of that. Okay, but if you're new to me, I've already said this is a personal journal where I process my inner and my outer worlds. I do so by using personality theory. The two theories that I use the most are the Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram, pushing those two systems together. I identify as an INTJ 8. I have a number of other identities that are important that I list out in the podcast. I think what's most important for this very short YouTube reflection is that this project is unedited and is unscripted. And that I'm bringing in multiple disciplines beyond typology. But typology is the main driver to my reflection, but I definitely bring in multiple disciplines. If you want to know more about me or my project, whether it's on YouTube or my podcast, please feel free to go to my website at yournidom.wordpress.com. So I have roughly 10 minutes left. I try to keep these to 15 minutes. And so let's just see what I can do with the 10 minutes remaining. One thing that he did in his video that I really appreciated is that he talked a lot about this aggressiveness. Type 8s are really characterized as being aggressive. And sometimes, and this is one of the reasons why I was looking for introverted 8s, because I think how we really relate to that quote unquote aggression is different. And so this is what he said that I think I'm going to steal this from him, or I'm going to borrow. He talks about 8s having like this constant ball of fire in your pit. A constant ball of fire. in your pit. And how that fire is attended to or addressed is really what's at the heart of the variance, in my opinion, of the type 8, whether it's introverted or extroverted, whether it's an INTJ versus an ENTJ, or another type in the MBTI. I think he's spot on. That is this burning ball of fire, and how that fire is attended to is really going to be influenced by some other factors. And I'm going to say MBTI type, your cognitive functions, but I think also your familial context, your training, your occupation, and all of that. So that was one thing that I thought was really important to say. In that, he talked about that ball of fire is like a ticking time bomb. Man, that's so good. That's so good. And check this out. He said that introverts have a longer ticker. It's going to take a long time for that bomb to go off. It's like, yup. And I would think extroverts, it's shorter. Love it. Love that. I'm forever grateful that I listened to this content for that piece right there. Now, let me add a layer to this, because I don't think it's just about introversion and extroversion based on how that ticker goes off. I then think you move into some of those other traits, feeling and thinking, and how you judge. We're going to go back. We're going to bounce to the Myers-Briggs. How you judge will determine how you address that ball of fire. So I'm an IJ. I'm an ITJ. I'm an INTJ, right? All of those factors or those traits are going to determine how I address the ball of fire. So you can have me sitting side by side with another 8, and it's going to look different. It's always fascinating when you go to, when you listen to people in type world and they talk about 8s, and they'll say, this person showed up as an 8 in this group, and they didn't have the affect of the other 8s. That's possible. Most of the time, it's just assumed that that person is really not an 8, and maybe they're not. But let's go back to my new friend here with that ball of fire, that ticking time bomb. Is going to be impacted by a number of variables, and introversion and extroversion, intuition and sensing, thinking and feeling, and judging and perceiving. Man, that's brilliant. Somebody needs to give this guy some credit. That was good. Really, really good stuff. So as an introverted INTJ8, I'm going to be slower to respond to, address that ball of fire. As an intuitive, I'm going to be slower because I'm processing the patterns. I'm concerned or curious about the patterns that fire is moving about with. Then here's where it's really important for me to note. As a thinker, when that time bomb goes off, the thinker in me it's going to go off at a structural level and not a interpersonal level. I think a type 8 that is a feeler is going to respond interpersonally. But when my ticker goes off, I'm going in for structure. I'm definitely hitting strategy. Man, you know what? I can spend this whole 15 minutes just talking about that, but I do need to I want to say a couple other things that he said. He talked about a lot about being an 8 wing 9. And so most of the time when I think about the wings, you don't hear me talk about Enneagrams as in the wings. That means that's the number on the side. So as an 8, you're either 8 wing 7 or 8 wing 9. I often don't talk about it. I mostly talk about 8 as in instincts. What type of subtype are you? Social, sexual, or self-preservation? But when I do talk about wings, I say I'm an 8-7. Well, this guy reminded me that once I did test as an 8-9. And I love how he framed this. He called it flapping your wings. You can go on either side of that. You could go to either wing for different reasons. That's good. That's the first person I've heard say that. And I was like, okay, When am I an 8-9 versus when I'm an 8-7, right? Man, he also said that an 8, I don't know if he associated this with an 8-9 or an introverted 8, I'm not sure. But he talked about how we can look like a number of different numbers, particularly 8, 5, 2, and 7. Well, 8, 5, and 2. 5 and 2 are in our pathway line of growth, our disintegration and our growth. Or we can look like a 7. He talked about looking like a 4 sometimes. I know we can look like 3s, right? I love that. So I wanted to make that point. He talked about intentionality, where people think we're sitting around thinking about how do we get even, or how do we get out ahead to not make us vulnerable. We're not thinking about it. And here's the thing, though. Here's where we have to be careful. This is what I have been very mindful of since I learned about the Enneagram, or when I finally embraced it, because I rejected it for a while. But here's the value for me. I realized that people are experiencing me in an 8 way when I thought I was being neutral. And if they're experiencing me in an 8 way, that means they're experiencing me in some type of conflict, some type of intensity. And then they respond to me. Now, prior to the Enneagram awakening that I had, all I was aware of when they responded to me in an aggressive way. I'm like, yo, you responded to me in an aggressive way? I'm coming back. But what I'm understanding now is that even in my neutrality, and what he called it too, like no intention, pure. He used the word pure, right? Even in our pureness, the world is experiencing us in a particular intense way. And we don't understand that. So then when they come back, we notice how they respond to us. We don't know that how they are experiencing us on the front end. That's so good, right? And I just think about when I'm being challenged, like and this is something I'm dealing with at the job. All of a sudden, there are some decisions I've made that really is about how people are responding to me. But I need to take a step back and think about, remind myself they're probably responding to me because they're experiencing me in a certain way. But I'm only conscious of how they're responding to me, not conscious of how they are experiencing me when I call myself being neutral or even caring. When I think I'm in my type 2, when I think I'm stretching to the type 2, they're still experiencing me as an 8. And then they respond to me. And then I come back like, you're not getting ready. You think you're going to challenge me? Baby, I'm going to show you, right? So that's really fascinating. Man, there's so much more I want to say. He talked about being kind, how we're really loving and all of that, which is so true. People don't always see that in us first. He also talked about how we have a bullshit detector. We see that right away. And how we address it. And man, I would love to linger here, but you guys, I'm running out of time. If this reflection has had any value for you, please give it a heart or like it. If my moving about has caused some randomness in you, or if my moving about in this reflection, man, has made you think about a conversation you've had in the world, please take this reflection and share it with those participants. And if my moving about has caused some randomness in you, I would love to hear it. You can find me on my website at yournidom.wordpress.com. Dang it, let me say it again, yournidom.wordpress.com. I'm also on Twitter at yournidom1. I share a lot of articles and content that I take in that I'm responding to. I'm on Facebook at yournidom. Don't do much there. And then, of course, you can find me on my podcast at yournidom. It has been a pleasure hanging out with you. I'm really grateful that I found this guy. I don't remember his name, but I'm going to put him in the show notes. But yay to my new friend. It has been a pleasure hanging out with you guys until I come back. Be well. Bye.